Drawn to southern Italy and the small town of San Giovanni Rotondo, thousands of pilgrims sought out Padre Pio, among them an American medical student and a young woman from Austria. The crowds of people wanted to attend Mass or go to confession with the priest with the stigmata, who had the gift of healing and could read souls. In this faith-filled environment, Padre Pio blessed the union of a young couple. ORTRUD Bianchi sat down with Kathy Harrington to share her story.
This is Padre Pio celebrating his last Mass on September 22, 1968. For 50 years and a day, he lived with the stigmata.
There was no doubt that he was a great saint, and that you knew that he suffered.
ORTRUD and Germaine Bianchi knew Padre Pio and credit their marriage to the saint.
That if I had to make that plan in heaven myself, to work out that I get to see Father Pio, I wouldn't have known how to go about it. There had to be a whole string of miracles happening.
Born in Germany, ORTRUD and her family were estranged from their Catholic faith by their parents' divorce. Years later, her mother returned to the faith, and with her daughter shared a pamphlet on divine mercy and the revelation of Sister Faustina Kowalska. ORTRUD had no interest in religion and only read one page.
On that page, Jesus says, "Let no one fear to come to me, even if the sins are as red as scarlet. I will wash you white." And it just felt that he was begging for people to come to him, how much he loved us.
ORTRUD became devoted to Jesus, attending Sunday Mass and then daily Mass. The next pamphlet she learned about was on Padre Pio. On a trip to Rome, her mother convinced her to visit San Giovanni Rotondo to see the priest known as the Great Saint. ORTRUD left unimpressed. 2 years later, ORTRUD drove her mother back to the small mountain village so that she could see the holy priest again. This time, Padre Pio blessed her mother.
And then he came to me, and he stopped and he put his hand on my head. And from that moment on, I was a child of Father Pio. I can't tell you what happened, but I just ran out and I cried. I knew in that moment that he had adopted me as his child and how much he loved me.
ORTRUD was far from alone in her desire to be in the presence of Padre Pio. Each day, the small chapel filled quickly.
People would still try to push by, so I was standing there and my future husband was standing next to me, which I didn't know. I didn't look around who I'm standing next to. I'm not interested. I was looking at I was praying, and somebody pushed me, and I kind of bumped a little bit into him, and so he looked who was like bumping into me, and he noticed me.
ORTRUD says everybody had a reason to be there. Staying behind her family on one visit, she had no place to stay and no money for a hotel.
I'm saying, "Father Pio, I never asked you for help before, but I need a place to sleep. Help me." And just as I finished saying this gentleman gets up from the bench there under the tree and comes towards me and says, "Do you speak English?" I said, "Actually, I'm busy right now. I have to find a place to sleep." And he said, "Why don't you wait here? I'm coming right back." 10 minutes later, he comes back and he says, come with me. I found a place for you." And he leads me to the first house next to the church.
He later returned with food for her dinner and breakfast. The young man may have been interested, but ORTRUD was not. At summer's end, she found a woman returning to Austria who was also willing to give the young American a ride back to medical school.
She left us alone in the car, so I said, "Oh, excuse me, I haven't said the rosary today yet. Would you like to say the rosary with me?"
By the 4th decade, she was praying alone. Later, Germaine would tell her what happened.
That's when it hit me that I had found a wife, because you were the first person that I ever met that wanted to pray the rosary with me.
Germaine traveled to Austria to visit ORTRUD with marriage in his heart. She listened to his profession and
all of a sudden there was this pain that I couldn't imagine not seeing him ever again. I couldn't. That's when he went on the train the next morning and went all the way to San Giovanni Rotondo and asked Father Pio, and Father Pio told him to marry me.
During confession, Padre Pio told Germain to prepare well for his marriage. At Christmas, the couple returned to San Giovanni Rotondo, ORTRUD seeking her own confirmation. Padre Pio approached them as they stood together. With his hands on their heads, he silently blessed them. 1 year later, on the feast of the Assumption in Our Lady of Grace Church, the couple married. Padre Pio greeted them before the ceremony and blessed their wedding rings. His gift to the couple was a picture of Our Lady of Grace with the personal inscription, "May the Virgin Mary hold you tightly in her love." At home in Connecticut, she blesses herself with a relic of the saint.
I thank Father Pio every single day for bringing us together. And it was a rosary. It was a rosary that set it into motion.
53 years and 8 children later, the blessed couple now wants to instill love for Padre Pio in their grandchildren. In Somers, Connecticut, I'm Kathy Harrington for Reel to Reel.